I sat in my car outside the courthouse staring at the envelope in my hands. Inside was a legal document demanding I triple my child support payments. Triple. For 3 years I had done everything right. I never missed a payment. I never skipped a single visit with my kids. I gave up so much to make sure Mason and Lily had what they needed. Lauren said the money was for them, but something felt wrong. Before I share what happened next, let me know where you are watching from today. Drop your location in the comments, hit that like button, and subscribe if you have not already. What I discovered changed everything, and I want to tell you this story because I know some of you might be going through something similar. Let me take you back to where it all began. Lauren and I met during our sophomore year at the University of Texas. She was studying communications, and I was working toward my computer science degree. We dated for 2 years before getting married right after graduation. I was 23 years old, full of hope, and convinced I had found my forever person. Our marriage lasted 7 years. During that time, we had 2 beautiful children. Mason came first, and then Lily arrived 2 years later. I loved being a father more than anything else in my life. Those kids became my entire world. To provide for them, I worked hard at my software engineering job in Austin. I put in extra hours, took on additional projects, and did whatever it took to give my family a comfortable life. But Lauren started to change. She complained that I was never home, that I prioritized work over her. The truth was I was working those long hours for us, for our future. I tried to explain this, but she did not want to hear it. One evening I came home early to surprise her and found her texting someone. The messages were flirtatious, intimate, clearly crossing a line. She swore nothing physical had happened, but the trust was broken. We tried counseling. We tried date nights. We tried everything couples are supposed to try. But after 6 months of attempting to repair what had been damaged, we both agreed it was over. The divorce was surprisingly amicable. I wanted to make it easy for the kids, so I let Lauren keep the house. I agreed to pay $2,400 a month in child support without fighting it. I moved into a small apartment about 15 minutes away so I could still be close to Mason and Lily. 3 years passed. I saw my kids every weekend and one evening during the week. Those moments with them were the highlights of my existence. We would go to the park, cook dinner together, watch movies on the couch. I lived simply saving whatever I could so I could take them on trips and buy them things they needed. Every single month my child support payment arrived in Lauren's account right on time. I never missed once. My relationship with the kids was strong. Mason was 8 now in 3rd grade, and he loved baseball and video games. Lily was 6, finishing up kindergarten, and she had this infectious laugh that could light up any room. They seemed happy when they were with me, and that was all that mattered. Then, about 8 months ago, things started to shift. Mason became quieter during our visits. He did not share as much about what was happening at home. When I asked about school or his friends, he gave short answers and changed the subject. I figured he was just growing up, entering that phase where kids become more private. Lily, however, was still her chatty self. One afternoon, while I was making her a snack, she mentioned something that stuck with me. She said, "Daddy, Mommy has a new friend who stays at our house. His name is Derek." I asked a few gentle questions, but she did not know much beyond that. I told myself it was fine. Lauren had every right to move on and date whoever she wanted. Our marriage was over, and I had accepted that. But then Lily said something else that bothered me. She told me Derek drove a really cool car, but Mommy said they could not afford new shoes for school. That did not make sense to me. I was sending enough money each month to cover basics like shoes. Still, I pushed the thought aside and focused on enjoying my time with the kids. A few weeks later, Lauren called me on a Wednesday evening. Her voice was cold and businesslike, nothing like how she used to speak to me, even after the divorce. She said we needed to have a serious conversation about finances. I asked what was going on, and she dropped the bomb. She wanted me to increase child support from $2,400 to $7,200 a month. That was 3 times what I was already paying. I nearly dropped the phone when I asked why she had a whole list ready. She said the cost of living had gone up. Mason needed tutoring. Lily should start piano lessons. She wanted to transfer both kids to a private school that would give them better opportunities. Then she said something that cut deep. She told me if I really loved my children, I would do this for them without hesitation. I told her I needed time to think. This was not a small request. Tripling my payments would devastate my finances. I would have to sell my car, move to a cheaper apartment, and forget about taking the kids anywhere special. She did not care about any of that. She just said I had 2 weeks to decide, and if I did not agree, she would take me to court. I hung up feeling like someone had punched me in the stomach. Was I failing as a father? Was I not giving my kids enough? Those questions haunted me for days. The pressure from Lauren did not stop after that phone call. She sent me a long email breaking down all the supposed expenses for the kids. Piano lessons at $200 a week. Private school tuition at $18,000 a year per child. Tutoring sessions at $100 an hour. The numbers were staggering, and something about them felt off. But I did not have proof of anything yet. A few days later, I received an official letter from a lawyer. Lauren had hired legal representation to demand the increase in child support. The letter was formal and threatening, stating that if I did not comply voluntarily, they would pursue the matter in family court. I felt the walls closing in around me. What made everything worse was how this affected Mason and Lily. During my next visit, Mason asked me a question that broke my heart. He looked up at me with those innocent eyes and said, "Dad, are we poor? Derek told me you do not give Mommy enough money to take care of us." I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him that was a lie, that I gave his mother thousands of dollars every month, but I held back. I would never badmouth Lauren in front of our children, no matter what she or her boyfriend said about me. Instead, I hugged Mason and told him that Daddy loved him very much and would always take care of him. Later that same day, Lily mentioned something that made my ears perk up. She said Derek had bought a new watch, and it was really shiny. She seemed impressed by it. I smiled at her but filed that information away in my mind. The turning point came the following weekend. I picked up Mason and Lily from Lauren's house, and I noticed something that disturbed me deeply. Mason was wearing an old shirt with a small tear near the collar. His sneakers were worn out, the soles peeling away from the fabric. These were not the clothes I had bought him just last month. When I asked why he was not wearing his new things, he shrugged and said, "Mommy told him to save them for special occasions." As I loaded the kids into my car, I glanced at the driveway. Parked there was a gleaming BMW, maybe a year or two old at most. That had to be Derek's car. The contrast was jarring. My son was wearing ripped shoes while this man drove a luxury vehicle. That night after the kids went to sleep, I made a decision. I was going to find out the truth about where my money was actually going. I started by asking Mason and Lily gentle questions during our time together, being careful not to put them in an uncomfortable position. Lily, being young and unfiltered, shared a lot without realizing the significance. She told me that Mommy and Derek went to fancy restaurants all the time. She said they took trips on weekends, sometimes leaving her and Mason with a babysitter. She mentioned that Derek did not go to work like I did. He stayed home and played video games during the day. Mason confirmed some of this. When I asked if Derek had a job, he said he did not think so. He said Derek was always around, always on the couch or going out with their mom. This man was living in my old house, driving a nice car, eating at expensive restaurants, and apparently doing none of it with his own money. I needed more than just the observations of my children, so I did something I had never done before. I searched for Derek on social media. His Instagram account was public, which made things easy. What I found there made my blood boil. His profile was filled with photos of luxury. There were pictures from 5-star resorts in places like Cancun and Scottsdale. There were shots of expensive meals, bottles of champagne designer clothes. In several photos I could see Lauren beside him wearing new jewelry and carrying handbags I had never seen before. The dates on these posts coincided exactly with the times Lauren had been telling me she was struggling to make ends meet. I needed more confirmation. I reached out to Mrs. Carroll, an elderly woman who had been our neighbor when Lauren and I were still married. She still lived next door to the house where Lauren and the kids stayed. Over coffee, she shared what she had observed. Mrs. Carroll told me that Derek seemed like a nice enough man at first, but she had never once seen him leave for work in the morning. She said Lauren had bought him that fancy car a few months back. She remembered because there had been a small celebration in the driveway when it was delivered. My stomach turned. Lauren had used money, potentially my child support money, to buy her boyfriend a BMW. I was not done investigating. The next step was to verify the claims Lauren had made in her emails. She said she wanted to enroll the kids in private school, so I called the school she had mentioned. The admissions office told me they had no application on file for Mason or Lily. They had never even inquired about enrollment. Then I called the music academy, where Lauren claimed Lily would be taking piano lessons. Same story. No record of my daughter. No inquiries. Nothing. I also visited Mason's actual school and spoke with his teacher. What she told me was heartbreaking. She said Mason often came to class without basic supplies. His lunch was sometimes just a simple sandwich and nothing else. She had noticed his worn clothing and asked if the family was experiencing financial difficulties. She had been planning to reach out to Lauren about available assistance programs. The picture was now crystal clear. The $2,400 I sent every month was not going to my children. It was funding Lauren and Derek's lifestyle. They were traveling, dining out, buying luxury items while Mason and Lily were neglected. And now they wanted me to triple the payments so they could live even more lavishly. I knew I had to confront Lauren. I called her and asked to meet in person to discuss the child support situation. She agreed, probably thinking I had decided to give in to her demands. We met at a coffee shop on a Saturday morning while the kids were with my parents. Lauren arrived looking confident. She was wearing a new outfit and carrying a purse that I recognized from Derek's Instagram photos. She smiled at me like she had already won. I kept my composure. I asked her to sit down, then calmly placed a folder on the table between us. Inside were printed screenshots from Derek's Instagram, the email response from the private school confirming no enrollment, and the message from the piano academy stating they had no record of Lily. I looked her in the eyes and asked where my money was really going. I told her it was obvious that none of it was reaching our children. Her expression shifted. First came denial. She told me it was none of my business how she spent money once it was in her account. I reminded her that child support was meant to support our children, not her or her boyfriend. Then came deflection. She accused me of not understanding the pressure of raising 2 kids on her own. She said I had the easy job just showing up on weekends to play the fun parent while she dealt with everything else. Finally, she lost her composure. Her voice rose as she said something that confirmed everything I suspected. She told me that Derek was going to be their stepfather someday, and he deserved to be taken care of too. My money should support their entire household, not just the kids. I stayed calm even though anger was burning inside me. I told her clearly that my child support was for Mason and Lily, not for a grown man who refused to work. I informed her that I would not be increasing the payments. In fact, I was going to petition the court to review the current arrangement and investigate how the funds were being used. Lauren's face went pale. She threatened to take me to court to fight for full custody to make my life miserable. I stood up from the table and told her I would see her in front of a judge. Over the following weeks, I prepared my case meticulously. I hired a family law attorney who specialized in custody disputes. When I showed her all the evidence I had gathered, she told me this was one of the clearest cases of child support misuse she had seen. She was confident we could not only block the increase, but potentially change the custody arrangement entirely. We filed a motion requesting the court review how Lauren was using the child support funds. We also requested a modification of the custody agreement, asking for primary custody to be transferred to me. My lawyer gathered additional evidence through legal channels, including financial records that showed Lauren's spending patterns. Then something unexpected happened. Derek called me directly. His voice was aggressive and threatening. He told me I was destroying their family and demanded that I back off. I stayed on the line letting him talk because Texas law allowed me to record the conversation as long as I was a participant. Derek revealed more than he probably intended. He said that he and Lauren had plans together and my money was part of those plans. He said I had no right to interfere with how they lived their lives. He even implied that if I kept pushing, he would make sure I regretted it. I saved that recording and handed it over to my attorney. It became a key piece of evidence. The day of the hearing arrived. Lauren showed up with her lawyer looking less confident than she had at the coffee shop. The courtroom was quiet as both sides presented their arguments. Lauren's attorney tried to paint her as a dedicated mother struggling to provide for her children. He asked the judge to grant the increased support. Then it was my turn. My lawyer systematically presented every piece of evidence. The Instagram photos of luxury vacations and expensive purchases. The confirmation emails from the school and music academy. The recording of Derek admitting their plans for my money. The teacher's testimony about Mason coming to school without supplies. Lauren was asked to explain the discrepancies. She stumbled over her words, unable to provide satisfactory answers. At one point, she started crying and tried to blame everything on Derek, saying he had manipulated her and pressured her into asking for more money. The judge was not sympathetic. She expressed serious concern about the welfare of Mason and Lily. She noted that the evidence clearly showed child support funds were being diverted away from the children's actual needs. Additional witnesses supported my case. Mrs. Carroll testified about Lauren buying Derek the BMW. Mason's teacher confirmed the condition he often arrived at school in. A child psychologist who had spoken with both kids reported that they expressed a desire to spend more time with their father and felt more stable in my care. The judge made her ruling. Primary custody was transferred to me, effective immediately. Lauren would have visitation rights according to a schedule set by the court. The child support obligation was reversed. Instead of me paying Lauren, she would now contribute a modest amount toward the children's expenses while they lived with me. When I walked out of that courtroom, I felt like I could finally breathe again. I called my mother to share the news, and she cried tears of joy. That afternoon, I picked up Mason and Lily from school. When I told them they would be living with me full-time, Mason hugged me tighter than he ever had before. Lily jumped up and down, asking if she could have her own room at my place. As for Derek, he disappeared from Lauren's life within days of the ruling. Once the money was gone, so was he. Lauren sent me a text message apologizing, claiming Derek had controlled and manipulated her. I read the message, then put my phone away without responding. There was nothing left to say. The first few months of having Mason and Lily full-time were challenging. I moved us into a 3-bedroom house where each of them could have their own space. Mason chose blue walls for his room, and Lily wanted hers painted lavender. Watching them settle in, seeing them relax and smile, more often made every difficulty worthwhile. I had to learn new skills quickly. I became an expert at making packed lunches and braiding hair for Lily. I figured out how to help Mason with his homework subjects that I had not thought about in years. Some nights I was exhausted, barely able to keep my eyes open after handling work and parenting, but I would not have traded it for anything. The children began to heal in ways I had not anticipated. Mason slowly returned to being the talkative, curious boy I remembered from before the divorce. He joined a Little League baseball team, and I never missed a game. He started sharing stories about his friends and his teachers, opening up in ways he had not done for a long time. One evening, as I was tucking him into bed, he looked at me and said he felt safe with me. Those words meant more than any court victory ever could. Lily blossomed too. I enrolled her in real piano lessons at a studio near our house. Every week she came home excited to show me what she had learned. Her playing was clumsy at first, but her enthusiasm was boundless. 6 months in, she performed her first simple song for me in our living room. I recorded it on my phone and still watch it sometimes when I need a reminder of why I fought so hard. Dealing with Lauren was something I had to navigate carefully. She had visitation rights, and I never interfered with her time with the kids. Whatever had happened between us, she was still their mother. I drove them to her apartment for scheduled visits and picked them up afterward without drama. I never spoke negatively about her in front of Mason and Lily. They did not need to carry the weight of adult conflicts. Internally, I struggled with lingering anger for a while. I would lie awake some nights thinking about how close I had come to losing everything, how Lauren and Derek had tried to exploit my love for my children. But gradually I realized that holding on to that bitterness was only hurting me. It was like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. I made a conscious choice to let go, not because Lauren deserved forgiveness, but because I deserved peace. I could not change what had happened, but I could control how I moved forward. The energy I had spent being angry, I redirected toward being present for my kids. A year after the custody change, our lives had found a new rhythm. Mason's grades improved significantly. Lily could play 3 songs on the piano from memory. I had even started dating again, nothing serious, but a kind woman I met through the school's parent association who made me laugh and understood the demands of raising children alone. Looking back, I learned something important from this experience. I used to think being a good father meant sacrificing everything, giving whatever was asked without question. But I discovered that being a good father also means standing up when something is wrong. It means protecting your children even when the threat comes from someone who is supposed to love them too. My kids did not need my money flowing to their mother's boyfriend. They needed me to recognize the injustice and do something about it. When I finally found the courage to say enough, everything changed for the better. Sometimes the people closest to you can take advantage of your kindness. They mistake your generosity for weakness and your patience for submission. But discovering that does not mean you have to become cold or cynical. It just means you need to direct your kindness toward those who truly deserve it, starting with yourself and your children. If you are going through something similar, I hope my story gives you strength. The truth can be painful to uncover, but it is always better than living a lie. Do not be afraid to ask questions. Do not be afraid to demand accountability. And do not let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting what matters most. So let me ask you this. Have you ever had to fight for something you believed was right, even when everyone expected you to stay silent? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this video resonated with you, please give it a like and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel so you do not miss future stories. Thank you for watching and for being part of this community. I wish you clarity when things seem confusing, courage when the path feels difficult, and peace when the storm finally passes. Take care of yourselves and the ones who depend on you.